Hello everyone, to those just joining, to those who have been waiting, to everyone watching things back on the VOD, whether you're here on Twitch or on YouTube, depending on when you watch it. Hello and welcome to another stream, and welcome to the first game dev stream that I've done here on this channel for a month. A long time. It's been quite a long time. Because, you know, had things happen and I've been focused on streaming other things as well, and a lot of the last month or so was like me trying to find like motivation to do it again amongst everything. But I decided that since I've been slowly getting back into things again, I wanted to, I guess, refocus on the project again, because from what I was doing beforehand, I was enjoying things a lot, and of course, can't exactly help, you know, having to take time out of doing this stuff, because reasons. So, there are some changes that I have made since the last time I worked on this, but I'm going to quickly get... Hold on, where is the thing for operas and music? I'm gonna find it there. And where is the... Gonna see if I can find the video I was using the last time. And I'll restart from the beginning because, God, there was a lot of Xenoblade music here that I didn't manage to get through all of them. So, gonna do that. Turn it down a tad on YouTube, and just gonna make sure that it's all coming through. Perfect. So, there are changes that I've made since the last time that I worked on this project, and one that is very clearly obvious as soon as you look at things, if it wouldn't freeze up, the filter. There is now a sort of PS1-esque filter being applied to the game world, and this is like post-processing shader stuff. So if I try and find where I was, so materials, so material PS1 shader, and I'm hoping that this, yeah, it does open there. So, and it would probably be better if I open the material instance, because the material instance, like, while this is like the base material for it, the material instance lets me sort of tweak things more at a specific level for the one that I'm using for the environment. So the scalar factor, lower it is, the more pixelated it becomes, to the point where it just becomes so bit crushed you can't see anything. So if I was to do this and leave it at, say, 10 and save it, because this is the one I'm using in the level, you can't see anything. Absolutely nothing can be seen. And then as that becomes like larger, things become clearer. Like part of it, like if you leave it at a certain value, it still retains some of that sort of crunchiness of like PS1 style graphics. But at the same time, if you turn it up high enough, it just kind of becomes smooth, like a regular, like Unreal Engine sort of like environment. So the value I had it at before was decently okay. And then there's the multiply factor, which I guess, yeah, it affects how, like, the sort of, like, filter that's applied, in a sense. Like, the color and everything. And, of course, the higher it is, the more sort of normal it looks, but the lower it is, it affects more of, like, how the color in the game looks. So, scalar factor is resolution, the multiply factor is more so to do with the color and how sort of, like, I guess, like, how it's impacted overall lighting-wise and color-wise, and whether or not it's, like, inverted or anything along those lines. So, that's one of the first big changes that I made, so, like, everything's back to normal now. So that was the first thing. That was a small little thing that I worked on, and I looked up tutorials and learned how to do it, and I like it a lot because it was this was a little bit before I caught the bug for like making like all the PS1-esque changes that I wanted. But so continuing on from that, this is like, there's probably one or two people here who may or may not have seen this already because, you know, you're close friends. You'll have seen me sharing it, like, oh, this is what I've been doing and what I've been testing and experimenting with, and I like how this looks a lot. So, but for people who aren't aware, and that is definitely a lot of people seeing this, another change that I made, I don't know if I showed off like the camera zoom for the sprinting, but this exists now, and this is mainly to give it a I mean, this is in the event that I never explain this, but this is to give the sort of effect of like it really feeling like the player is moving fast, because before this change was implemented, it just kept the camera field of view at the same sort of state, and they just move faster but not have the camera zoom in, which really didn't sort of get across the point that the player is moving a lot faster than they were. So I took this inspiration from Spyro, where when Spyro is charging, like the camera sort of zooms in a little bit more on the player. So you can definitely see where I took inspiration for that. And also you see a moving platform there. I will explain that in a moment. But another thing, you may have noticed from where the player has been landing or jumping, I added squash and stretch to the player. From when they jump, when they land, when they stomp, where they have a more exaggerated squash and stretch, which I like a lot. And also when they wall jump, like that's kind of present there as well, though that was a change I made recently because I thought, well, they're squashing and stretching when they're jumping normally, they should be doing it when they wall jump as well. And of course, as I demonstrated last time I streamed this, like, or when I was making it, breaking boxes is a thing that happens when you stomp on it. So I don't, yeah, that was also like stuttering on like stream end as well, which is weird. I don't know why, but yeah, that's other changes. Now for some of the other like little gameplay-esque changes, moving platforms. I have made 2 types of moving platform because I was experimenting with like how they would work and how they would function. This one, yeah, fuck this box in particular. It can get destroyed. I don't care. I don't like it. I was angry with it, so I destroyed it. But yeah, this is one of the moving platform types. This one just simply moves between 2 defined points in the level. So, if I click on this... This doesn't really demonstrate it properly because it's a bit finicky in like play mode. So I'm gonna go back into like the edit mode, and I'm gonna show this off. So here you see like the end, this thing called an end position widget, which is like a defined thing in the code that I made. It's an F vector. It's a vector, like a vector point in the world space. But if I go into the code capture, because I am noticing, oh dear. OBS, are you doing okay? Uh-oh. Ugh, the internet, the internet, the internet, the internet. Oh. And of course I'm having mild technical problems. Yay! I really should have asked to reset the Wi-Fi beforehand. Just as a forewarning, I'm gonna quickly go and see if I can sort this out. I'll leave the music playing for the time being, though I'll quiet it down a little bit. And then I'll see if I can... I'll be right back. I'm not too sure if things are still working on like stream or bleh, on the other end. I'm having the feeling that things are breaking horribly. Because I can definitely tell it's losing a lot of the frames, even when I'm trying to do this as a solution. Uh, uh, are we... Harry's... Damn it. It might be sorted now, I'm not entirely sure. Just keeping an eye... I'm just going to keep an eye on things on OBS for the next few seconds, because, I am a little paranoid now. Give me a sign if things are working better than they were, because, because, I was scared that things were not going to be fixable. But yeah, before I was rudely interrupted by stream just breaking, like, you know, that's fun. That's lovely, that's wonderful, that's perfectly fine. I was explaining code. I was going through things. So for like the first moving platform, which is the one you saw there, the one that goes back and forth, there's a thing that I define here called an end position widget, or I called it an end position widget, which is an F vector, which is just a vector point in space. But the thing that makes it special is this thing here in this thing called the U property. It's called make edit widget, and rather than having like me just define what its value is in the code, or just define its value in just the editor, like in just the blueprint properties, if I go back into there, back into the actual main Unreal Editor window, as you can see here, like I can drag, I can drag this thing like everywhere, like forward, back, up, down, side to side. I can basically choose where it's, like, where this thing ends up. And say, for example, I just decide I want this... Oh, good bloody... Okay! But say I wanted it to... Whoops, did I move it down? No, I didn't. It looked like I moved it down. But, say I wanted the widget to be here now. It wasn't very helpful showing it off in, like, the actual play mode, because when, like, this thing is moving, it was showing this thing just, like, this widget moving along with it, which is, like, not a very helpful illustration or demonstration of it. So that defines that in, like, the editor, and then end position is just, like, oh, let's take this thing, this point, this widget point, and let's just get its actual position in the world. And then set the end position here. And then using where the platform will start at the beginning of the game, so it'll just get the object's location and set it as the start position, and using the end position it gets, using what is called a timeline, which is basically like, oh, along like this span of time, this thing will do this, according to like how long this timeline is supposed to last. And what it will do is that it will linearly interpolate from one point to another. So depending on like this value here, alpha, which is like defined within like slope curve, like going from 0 to 1. With 0 being like, oh, it's closest to the first point, 1 being closest to the last point. Like, it will go from one point to another based on this, and then it will set its location to whatever this current position is. However, like, oh, how does it move backwards when it gets to that other point? How does it do it? Well, basically, I have this thing that is called whenever it ends on either side. So whenever the timeline ends, like, whether it reaches the end or reaches, like, the very beginning, because it can be played in reverse, and this is what I'm using here. If, like, the platform is not reversing, and, like, it reaches the end of the timeline, then first it will say, oh, we'll play this timeline again, but we'll reverse it from the end this time. So we'll go from 1 to 0 instead. And then we'll say that this is currently reversing there. And then once, like, it reaches the start again, because it also, like, to explain things here, like, movement end func is, like a variable that's defined here. This is, like, a timeline event that happens. But in here, like, binding this method to, like, it's a lot to explain. We're basically taking this thing, assigning it to this thing here, and then we're setting the end function for the timeline to that thing that we assign the thing to. And then once, like, the timeline ends or it reaches the very beginning, it calls this here. And then, because it's also calling it when it reaches the very beginning again, because that technically counts as the end, it will check, oh, is this currently reversing? Yes, it is. We'll play it from the start again, and then we'll set it so that it's not currently reversing. And that's basically how it gets, like, the back and forth. It will reach the end, say, oh, it's not reversing, we'll play it from the end, and we'll say that it will flag it as reversing, and then it will just move back to its origin. It will perform the check again, and it will just do that. That's basically how this moving platform's working, and it's a pretty cool one. Though the other one, which I also looked into, which is kind of a lot more like I've kind of explored this idea before, where you'd have, like, a platform that moves, like I'd say within, say, maybe a circle or something along those lines, and maybe, like, along that circle, you'd have that platform just kind of rotate along with it. Or maybe not. Maybe that depends on the kind of platform you like, if you want it to actually rotate as it moves, or if you're kind of weird and you just want to have it, like, be a static, like, square or rectangular shaped platform that just kind of hovers around. There's this thing over here, which at the moment I'm just using, like, a little block to test it, just to make sure it's all working, and also, like, there's finicky stuff with how it rounds corners and whatnot. But this second moving platform follows a path. Like, it's called a spline, but for, like, simplicity's sake, I'm just going to call it a path, because that's what it is. It's following a path. And basically, like, because this also runs using a timeline, but instead of, like, reversing it from the end when it reaches the end, every time it reaches the end, like, the end position, which is also the start position, like, the start point, because, like, if I wanted to explain it, like, simply, without being too complicated, although it's very difficult to explain something like this in a simple way. So splines are made up of, like, they're paths, as I said. They're made up of different little points. You can have, like, you always have a start and an end point, and then you'll have the points in between those start and end points. The start point, like, where it is in relation to this path is 0, 0, 0, but that actual world location is just kind of translated by stuff that's happening in code. And then the end point is also set to 0, 0, 0. So where it starts is also where it ends, and because where it ends is where it starts, when it reaches the end of the timeline, it will just say, yeah, we'll just have the timeline run again. Also, I realize I may have actually completely muted my music while I was sorting things out. Whoops! Music's been going off in the background and I haven't... I haven't had it playing this whole time. I've been trying to sort things out with the bloody stream and OBS and the internet and all that jazz. But to kind of sort of go over it, it will just reach the end of the timeline, which is like the final position, and then as soon as it does that, it will just play like from the start again, and the platform just kind of moves like along the same path again. And this is kind of like, oh, this is very wordy, me explaining it like in like out loud. So I'm gonna go like eject from the player, and I'm just gonna show it happen. Like as you can see like the platform moving around. I made it kind of slow because I didn't want it to go too quickly just for this testing. And of course I noticed that it like how it moves is based on like a platform's origin, and you can see that sharp turn there, which I'm still trying to fix. But you can see it going around the same path again. It's started again. So it's going to reach, like, it's going through all the points, it's following the curve, like, along those points, and once it reaches the end, which, as I already said, is the start, then it will just restart. It will just do its thing again. So, yeah, that's pretty cool in my opinion. So, yeah, that's, like, now that it took me, like, a proper while to get through all of that because of all the connection stuff, now I've properly explained basically all that I've done since the last dev stream, which, you know, it's not too much, but it is a little bit, and a little bit is pretty good too. So, in terms of what we're going to properly get done today, I'm not too sure, because in terms of, like, player mechanics, I feel like I have basically all that I want in terms of player mechanics. But what I haven't actually worked out is how I want enemies to behave. I don't have that yet. And I think for the sake of, like, you know, trying to, like, at the very least having something for, like, that should be... There we go. Now we're properly back. Okay. I was in the middle of explaining stuff, and the actual Wi-Fi was reset. Sorry about that. But, okay. As I was saying, before things were abruptly cut off, I'm not counting on making some, like, enemy, like, artificial intelligence that's, very complex or convoluted. I am at the very least trying to make something that functions in the sense of having a prototype. So, while what I'd really want in the end, because, you know, if you've been around or if you've watched the VODs for my Spyro 3 playthrough, you'll notice that I really love how the enemies interact with one another in that game. In terms of, like, oh, like, they do things on their own, but at the same time, there are occasions where if they're, like, near, like, an enemy that actually sort of, like, is, like, I guess, compatible with them, I guess you could say that, then they'll just, like, either run into them or throw them or something along those lines, and I would love to do something like this. It would be so cool if I did this because, you know, we need more of this. We need more of that in games rather than just, you know, oh, the enemy is near another enemy. These enemies don't belong to the same faction. They're just going to shoot each other. We're not going to have ally enemies throw enemies at other enemies or at the player and all that funky jazz. Like, I want stuff like this. I want more stuff like it because it would be so cool. But not too, like, it just doesn't really happen anymore. So what I really want to do is try and do something like that eventually in the future. But at the moment, for the sake of having, like, working enemy AI in a working prototype, I'm going to do, like, just something, like, relatively simple. So, I'm gonna make a new folder here, and, right, I'm gonna get 2 things set up first. I'm gonna have Blackboard. And for now, we're just gonna call this Temp AI, because this is gonna be, like, a temporary solution for, like, enemy AI. And this is also gonna be, like, BT, like, behavior tree. So, people who don't know, like, this kind of stuff, and guaranteed, that will most likely be you, perhaps, unless you are also watching this as a, like, aspiring or already, like, far in dev, you'll probably be looking at these things and thinking, what is a blackboard? What is a behavior tree? These things work in tandem with one another. They, like, this basically relies on, like, yeah, like, a behavior tree basically relies on a blackboard. So what a blackboard is for, like, and then, like, for artificial intelligence, like, AI in, like, Unreal, in terms of, like, having enemies move around, having enemies respond to the player, having enemies respond to other things in the environment. This basically stores, like, keys, and these keys store values. So they're basically variables, but they're variables specific for, like, the enemy behavior. So you have this one here that's already given. This is self factor, but I could make one here. I could make it Boolean. I can call it, for example, be seen player, and this would be used for something like, oh, the enemy has seen the player, or another, say, Boolean, call it be in attack range, and this would basically say, oh, the enemy is in, like, the attack range for the player, so now they can do something based on what happens. Okay, that's like the bare bone, like, that's just the thing of, like, blackboards and blackboard keys. They basically control what happens in the behavior tree, and the behavior tree is it takes a bit more to explain what the behavior tree does for people who don't know, but I'm gonna do my best. And I already took precautions before stream started, and before, you know, I started experiencing all the bloody connection stuff, because, you know, ba 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 ba. But in terms of behavior trees themselves are basically, yeah, you know, all those things that enemies can do in games, like whether or not they're patrolling, or whether they're chasing the player, or if they're attacking the player, or if they're investigating something, like they heard a noise and they go over to a different location and whatnot, and they just check the area to see if there's something there. This is basically Unreal's approach to like character AI for, like, NPCs and enemies and stuff. And I think behavior trees as a whole was first popularized by Bungie, I think. I'm not too sure. Let me actually double check that. I may be wrong in my facts. Who popularized? Or at the very least, Bungie was well known for using behavior trees in their games. Oh yeah, no. So the case is that, like, Halo 2 is a very significant case of where behavior trees was used. And of course that's Bungie. So I'm not entirely wrong, but I'm not entirely correct either, because there are other sources that have used, that probably used the whole behavior tree system behind, before that. But, I may be right, I may be wrong, but what's good is understanding that there is potential that I may be wrong, and knowing that I could, learn the facts. And that is good. For anyone that's watching, you may be wrong. And that's perfectly fine too. Unless you've done something completely shitty, in which case that's not right. Do better. But, where was I? Oh yeah, behavior trees. So behavior trees are basically, this just controls the whole behavior for, a thing, and, I could do something, by default, if I was to say, I'm just gonna do a, you can't put anything without putting a composite thing, or dragging off of there, but if I was to say move to, yeah, only composite nodes are allowed from, the root node. So, a composite node is basically, this is a thing that's controlling quite a bit of the, behavior. A selector is if this condition is met, so say if the enemy has seen the player, then it will be execute, or this is you there, sorry. Hold on, let me actually place it in, because I'm partially misremembering things. So, selector, basically, it will check whatever is below it, and if that condition can be met, then it will execute what is there. So, for example, we have the selector here. The selector just chooses between things. And for example, I'll put a sequence down here, which is another composite. Sequences basically do things from left to right, one after another, and until one of the things beneath it fails. If one of the things beneath it fails, then it will just either go back to the start, or it will say, yeah, this has failed, we'll go back here, and we'll check the next one, and la-di-da-di-da. So, I'll put two sequences, because this is a good way of illustrating this. This feels more like teaching game development, and I'm going to level with people. I'm not the greatest teacher. I mean, I can explain things rather well, but I am not really a teacher, because I feel like, I mean, sure, there's a time to learn how to, teach about this and explain things and all that jazz and... But, yeah, I'm doing what I can here. And also, as I said, I had already sort of prepped for things before stream, and I have Clip Studio open, just in case I need to draw a diagram, because we love diagrams around here. Done it in the past, and they're pretty helpful. So, as I was saying, sequences, they do things from left to right, one after another. So, for example, I'll take an actual task. So this is move to. This basically says, if you have a thing, a point, or something that at least has a vector position, say the position of, let me actually define that in the blackboard. So a vector, just say, let's just name this patrol point, just to be simple, we'll just call this patrol point. And what this basically will do, if we were to go back into the behavior tree and select it here, patrol point, it will move towards that point in the world, or that object. If it was an actor, then it would just try and move towards it until it's within an acceptable radius of it. And acceptable radius basically says how far, how far does this thing that's being controlled by the behavior tree have to be from its target in order to say, yeah, this task is successful. We're going to stop executing this now and the sequence is done. Or this part of the sequence is done and we'll move on. Wait is basically simple. It basically just says, yeah, we're just going to wait here for a set amount of time. We can set the time here. So, like, it can be... You could just say 0 if you want it to just... For some reason, like, if you wanted to have, like, an empty branch that says, oh, this enemy will just kind of stop doing everything when, like, the player is dead. But it won't do anything unless there's, like, something there at the very least. So I just put, like, a wait node with 0 seconds there just to make sure it works. I don't know why it does this. This is kind of weird. But, yeah. You can set how long they wait for from, like, 0 to, let me just, that many seconds, apparently. And what's cool is that you can have a random deviation. So you can have it be like, oh, plus minus, this amount, apparently. So you can either have that many seconds, like, between that many seconds more or that many seconds less. This doesn't really help, because I was like, oh, let's see how far this could go. And I found the maximum value for it, which is fun. So... but yeah, wait will just have a thing wait for, like, a set amount of time. And normally this is very helpful. If you had, like, a patrolling AI, you would have them, like, move to one point, wait for a few seconds, and you'd potentially maybe have that, like, deviate by, like, a second or two, depending on what you wanted from it. And then after that, you'd have it move to the next point, and once that's done, it would wait, and then it would just keep doing that, like, basically ad infinitum. You would have that keep running, and that would happen while they're in patrol mode. That's basically what it does, which is, you know, it's a nice simple system for having enemies patrol. Like, it's not, like, convoluted, it's not, like, trying to do too much. It's just, you know, there. This does this now. This helps. And it's very... Oh, whoops, I muted it. Muted the music by accident because I was checking something. And Opera likes to pop out the YouTube tab. But yeah, like, that's fairly simple to set up. There's also, like, other stuff like rotate to face, blackboard entry. So, like, if you want, like, as it's moving towards a thing, like, rotate to face it, so it looks like it's not just slowly moving towards it, but it actually sort of looks at the thing it's moving towards, then that's good as well. Play animation, that's simple enough, it plays an animation. Play sound, that's simple enough, it plays a sound when a thing happens. Make noise generates what is called a noise event, and I won't explain what that is at the moment because we're not really sort of going into, like, AI that has to investigate what happened at what location, because we're not making, like, a stealth game or anything. That's not what I'm making. But just know that make noise generates noise events, and that can be used to signal to other AI that, oh, there's a noise at this point, and wherever it detects, like, that point where the noise originates from, then it will just take that and it will move towards it, and then just sort of, like, go from there. I don't know what... I can't remember what instantly finishes with a given result. Well, that helps. Push pawn action to controller. I'm unsure about what that does. Oh! Run behavior task allows pushing subtrees. Subtree asset can't be changed in runtime. This limitation is caused by support for subtrees root level decorators, which are injected into the parent tree and structure. So this basically says, oh, you can take a behavior tree and you can have it run another behavior tree, which is a subtree. Run behavior dynamic tasks. Oh! Right, so this one is like running a subtree, but this subtree is defined during, like, not during runtime, it can only be defined outside of it, and then run behavior dynamic just lets you do it more dynamically. It basically lets you adjust the behavior on the fly for subtrees, which is cool, I guess. I'm still not sure what environmental query systems are. I need to learn that. I guess there's no harm in learning it eventually. It's just working myself into that. Set tag cooldown. Use with cooldown tag decorators to prevent behavior tree execution. Ah. I don't... Right, and then auto-arrange. I don't know what auto-arrange does, and it's not giving me a tooltip. That's very helpful. Aside from that, aside from those, like, template tasks, you can also, like, create a new, like, behavior tree task, which you can basically have, like, custom behavior. So, for example, you want them to check a thing within an area, or you want them to be able to just play, like, an animation based on the, like, if you wanted them to play a random animation, like a random attack animation, like say you had an enemy that had like a light and a heavy attack and you wanted it to randomize which one it did, then you could just say, oh, we'll just do this thing, get this method from like this thing, and then we'll choose the animation based on the result. Otherwise you just do regular play animation, or you could just you could just use new tasks, like the custom tasks for a lot of things, which is very helpful. I just feel like I'm currently in my little world space of game development Yapsville population me. And that's not a bad thing, but I feel like I'm just kind of yapping more that I'm working. So but yeah, so that's like sequences and stuff. And then for the selectors, if I was to say attach a decorator. Decorators are things you can attach to things, or to like composite nodes and other nodes and so on, and you can basically sort of alter behaviors based on what you set the decorator to be. So for example, the one that is most commonly used is a blackboard based condition, and this basically says if a certain condition is set or is not set, then this will run this part of the behavior tree. So for example, if B scene player is set, and you could just rename this, so for example, we'll just call this as scene player, because that makes it look more neat. You're like, this is where like the functionality of the selector comes in. If like, for example, B scene player has not been set, and for example you have like this like chase stuff beneath here, or you have another selector, or like a parallel thing, like I didn't explain what a simple parallel thing. A simple parallel basically it's basically kind of like a sequence, but it executes two tasks like simultaneously. So you could have like you could just have a sequence here, and then have that be, like move towards the player, or do this or do that. And then here, but yeah, this basically does things like two things at a time, and you can have a sequence which runs like the multiple things in quick succession, and another thing that's like, just try attacking the player. Or if you had a ranged enemy that attacks the player while they're moving, you could have this side be, move towards them, and then this part be, shoot at them. So you could have that be that, which is pretty cool. But anyway, as I was saying, if we were to have like the chase logic, so like it will run towards the player and it will rotate to look at the player, like both of those here. And then here we just have what happens when like they're not like chasing the player, when they're not currently, like say you had a stun system in your game and you want them to only do this when they're not stunned, and you set that there. But I'm getting carried away. For this simple example, I'm just saying this reminds, in a way it kind of is like Scratch. I haven't used Scratch properly, but it's kind of like it, but this is more so constructing like AI behavior. But as like I was saying, say you have the like B scene player is set, or like this is checking if it has been set, and if it's not set, it won't do anything that's underneath here. The selector will automatically just move on to the other sequence, because this thing failed, and it will move on to the next one along the line to see, can we execute this? And because at the moment this thing doesn't have like a decorator assigned to it, it's not checking to see, oh, the AI is currently stunned, or the AI is like not in range of the player, or so on and so forth. It will just execute this automatically. So it will just kind of do what it does. It will do what it does, and it will do what it does well. So that's kind of like sort of a standard sort of way of implementing an enemy AI, or this is just a very bare bones way of doing it. So because it's the bare bones way of doing it, we're going to start with this for the temp AI, because as I said, I'm not going to be doing something overly complex at the moment. I just want to be able to have something that functions for a prototype, and then, you know, when like a small prototype is ready, sort of expand on things a bit more, and then just kind of see if I can make more complicated behaviors as I go on, but of course, bit by bit. Not like jumping into the deep end, because I'm just going to make myself hate the process. And God knows I do that sometimes, where I make things a bit more difficult for myself, and then I'm not having fun with it anymore. I'm going to do this stage by stage. So the first stage for this prototype at the very least is something simple. It will be an enemy that patrols around for the time being. It will only patrol around for the time being, and then when it sees the player, it will chase at them. It won't attack, because I won't have any attack animations at the moment, because I'm still trying to work out whether or not I also want to slowly take time and work on like enemy character models as well, because I'm currently trying to work on the player one, and I have the model in place. I have it rigged for animations, but I don't have like stuff unmapped for or mapped for textures yet. So I don't have textures ready. So it's not quite ready to use. So I'm leaving that like making enemy characters until I've made a player character. And even then, for the time being of like, oh, I've made the player character, I'd probably just duplicate the player character model and then just like change the color of the material, just so I can use it as like a test, like, animation and character model for an AI enemy until I have something more permanent. But that's besides the point. So we're gonna get this done lickety-split. This won't take too long. B scene player has been set, so going to get an object, and we're going to call this, yeah, player versus evil player. That's going to be the enemy of the game, the game, because it's already rat pro tag. It's going to be, we're going to have a evil rat, and that rat is just the same as the player, but it's like, it's green. Like, it's got the plague, it's got the disease. You do not want to touch it, because it is evil and diseased, and it will kill you, and kill you dead. So, yeah, this is just tentative at the moment. This isn't like finalized. No, he has the greed. I diagnose you with greed. Green is bad. But yeah, as a like the temp solution, I would be doing that, and then eventually later that this is, I forget that this one song from Xenoblade 2 is like very fucking, I skipped too far ahead. There we go. It felt like waiting in the chapel just for like fucking morning mass to end sort of vibes. And that's kind of why I don't really like that song from Xenoblade 2. This one I like a lot more because, well, this is just including like a riff from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. But yeah, nostalgia aside, and that all aside, I need to name this. So, player target. key type, object, and we want to make it an actor reference because like we're just checking an actor. And so B scene player is set. Wait. Yes. So at the moment it will check like, oh, has the player been set? If it has been set, then first things first, we're gonna say move to, and we're gonna say move to the player target, and then at the same time we're gonna say rotate to face blackboard entry, and we'll just say that as player target. And precision, I think, affects how quickly it follows the how quickly it rotates to face the player. Hold on a minute. I just got a message. Just gonna get through that quickly. I've lost where everything is. Rah! I'm going to lay down. I feel awful. Oh no! I will be back on phone eventually. Oh, well, get the rest you need, friend. And I'll see you in a bit. But yes, in terms of, like, precision, I think precision just affects how quickly it rotates to face the player, or rotates to face whatever it's focusing on. And I need to actually test and experiment with how quickly this, like, how quickly it turns after changing or adjusting the values, because, you know, I want to see if, like, it's too sharp or it's too quick, and I want to make sure it works properly. Okay, so, second thing second, patrol points. So I already made, like, one vector patrol point, like, one key called a patrol point, but I'm going to make a second one, and I'll rename that one to patrol point 1. This will be patrol point 2. There's probably a way to have it so that instead of, like, going between two vector points, it will just, like, follow a spline path. I'm pretty sure that can be done, but... And that would allow for things to be, like, a bit more precise. Though, I guess that would depend on, how the hell would I make that work? Though, I would have to look into that. I could look into that for, like, the future. Because I feel like that would be pretty cool to have it sort of follow, like, a long defined path rather than, oh, we're going to have, like, 2 points in drastically different locations, not in, like, a straight line. But then it will just calculate the shortest route. Like, having it calculate the shortest route is fine for if you're playing a stealth game. But if you want, like, an enemy to follow an actual path, like, a full path rather than, like, oh, we're just taking these shortcuts here and there, then I feel like a spline path to determine where it will move from and to would be pretty cool. And I think that would probably be kind of similar to how like, some of the enemies in Spyro would move. So I would like to do that eventually as well. But for now, we're going to be just kind of doing it Patrol Point 1 and Patrol Point 2. Because that's... I wish I could rearrange these. That upsets me. I can't... I should have added the second patrol point first before I was demonstrating that. But, yeah, this is also relatively easy to set up. So I'll say move to... And that will move towards patrol point 1. And then we'll have a wait node, because we don't want them to immediately just sort of go back to running towards it. We want them to wait, say, 2 seconds, and we'll have a deviation of 0.5. So it will either be 1.5, or it will be between 1.5 and 2.5 seconds max for the wait. Then move to... So once again, we're moving towards another point, and that point will just be... Patrol point 2. and then another weight node, and we're just going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to... I really should have duplicated it. That could have worked too. I could have duplicated them both, but oh well. That's pretty standard, like, a pretty standard setup for, like, a behavior tree, in a way. Like, having, like patrol for the enemy, and then having, like, them chase the player when they see them. How they see them, I'm gonna do something simple for the time being, but that, of course, depends on working on the enemy itself. And and on that subject, on that note, we're gonna make a new C++ class. It's gonna be it'll be a character, of course, or it'll be a character. It'll be a character, and we'll call it TP_enemy. And of course the TP prefix is like Twitch prototype, which is the name of the project. But I want to give it like a proper name, eventually, like the project a proper name, once I have more things in place and more of an idea of where I want to take this. Because I have a bit of a better idea now that I'm like, oh, I want to stylize it in the PS1 aesthetic. I want to be able to just kind of make it kind of like Spyro, but with my own little spin on things. And, you know, it works, like, it would work pretty well in terms of that direction. But in terms of, like, name, at the moment, it doesn't have a proper name. So, like, an actual identity would give, like, maybe a better sense of direction for things, but that's to be decided. That's to be decided eventually. So, I've got to wait for not Visual Studio. I've got to wait for Ryder to generate the code, because at the moment it's just kind of it's slowly doing it. Oh yeah, so I wouldn't find this out until like the other day, like I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever it happened, but I think the absolute greatest travesty of the games industry layoffs and shutters that has been committed as of late, and there's been quite a lot, like there's been like so much already, and I think it's like just as much, if not more, than last year now, which is, I just don't like that. That's insanely crazy. The greatest atrocity that I feel is shutting down it's Xbox shutting down Tango, the makers of like Prey and like The Evil Within, and wait, was it Prey and Evil Within? I can't remember. It was Prey at least, and Hi-Fi Rush. And fucking Hi-Fi Rush was one of those games that came out last year that was dropped unexpectedly, and it was so fun. Like, there was a lot of passion behind that project. There was so much personality in like the art style and the character design and like the dialogue and the gameplay. Like having like a sort of character action game, kind of like Devil May Cry, but without like all of those systems. But you still had moves you could unlock. You still had like tag characters you could unlock and tag team moves you could unlock with them. And you had the system of making sure to press your inputs to hit on the beat. It's such a cool concept. That was so fun. And it really sort of like, I mean, one thing I remember was, you could definitely tell that there were some people who didn't have rhythm by how they were responding to the game, like, I can't do anything good in this game. But that probably means you have no rhythm, my friend. But like, it really sort of like pushed you to try and perfect that rhythmic timing, because there was more of a reward for being able to, like, not only just like perform like very flashy and snazzy combos, but also being able to sort of time it perfectly to the beat. Because the more you timed it to the beat, like, the more damage you do, and the more sort of, like, because there was, like, a scoring system as well, and, like, the more you time it well, like, the more score you'd rack up, and it made it worth replaying to go through and try and sort of find different combo routes and, like, different ways to just sort of achieve higher scores in combat, and that's so cool. That's such a cool game, and I loved it so much. It took me a while to eventually get around to finishing it last year. Like, I played it when it came out. Like, I played it for a bit, and then I had, like, a period where I stopped playing it, and then I eventually got back to it, and I beat it, and I had so much fun with it. Like, there was so much personality and charm to it, and I loved the characters. Like, Chai is, like, a lovable goof. Like, Cinnamon was just, like, pretty, like, chill and cool dude, and you can rely on him. Oh wait, Cinnamon was the robot. It was Macaron. Macaron was the one. Macaron. I was thinking of Macaron, but I was talking about Cinnamon. Cinnamon's a funny robot guy. Sorry about that. I'm hydrating now because I should have done that not too long ago, and by that I mean 10 minutes ago. But Peppermint was cool. Like, Peppermint is so cool. Like, and Corsica, well, basically everyone in that fandom loves Corsica. I mean, for reasons which I do not deny, because Corsica is... she is... wow. But I love the characters, I love the character designs, I love their personalities, and I loved how, like, when they were introduced as, like assists, how they sort of, like, I guess in a way they were kind of situational depending on the, like, the obstacles, because they had puzzle-solving abilities. But in combat, though, they had, like, their specifics, like, they did specific things against specific enemies. Like Peppermint could, whittle down, like, the blue shields on blue shielded enemies. Macaron could, like, punch out, like, Z plating, which was, like, this heavy armor which made it impossible to damage enemies. And Corsica's whole deal was that she could stun enemies, or make it easier to sort of, like, break enemies and stun them. And, like, all three of those elements, when you're, like, working them into combos and stuff, that was so cool! Like, it's such a cool game, and it sucks that, like, that game did so well, and the devs were in talks of pitching a sequel. And Microsoft last year was like, oh, we need more stuff like Hi-Fi Rush, we're going to invest in it, la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And then they decided, no, fuck you, we're going to shut down the studio, we're going to shut down any hope for a sequel, we're just going to ruin that for you. Why would you do that? And, like, this is on top of shit already happening with Sony and Helldivers 2. Because, I had already discussed this previously on stream, and I thought, oh, like, everyone review bombed the game to try and get Sony's attention, and it was encouraged by the community manager for the game, and they said, oh, hey, get Sony to, like, reconsider this, like, forcing the PSN sign-in, and banning the game from being purchased in, like, so many regions of the world. At the time, it was, like, 177. Now it's 180. Which is fucking what? And that goes for all future, like, Sony titles published on Steam. Which is... how? How could you do this? Oh yeah, and I'm saying that like, oh, I thought it was gonna stop. No, it didn't stop. Apparently, from what I hear, Sony lied, went ahead with it anyway, and then added like 3 more countries to that list, including Japan for some reason, which is, huh? Why? Like, how do you just say, oh, we're going to make a public tweet, say, yeah, we heard you, we're not going to go ahead with the update? and then watch people, like, revert their review bomb. And then just say, yeah, fuck you, we're going to go ahead with it anyway, because we don't like you. Like, how can you do that? That's just very disrespectful. Like, to the people that play your games. And, like, like, it's disgusting. Disgusting behavior. Like, disgusting behaviors from, like, two of the big, like, giants of the games industry. Like, this... It's compounding an issue that's already present, where, like, the games industry, in its current state, is just actively imploding on itself, because studios, publishers, and the like are just seeking more and more. They're constantly trying to chase more and more, and like games have gotten so expensive. Like, oh, we gotta progress technology, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we gotta spend more, spend, in order to make it look hyper-realistic, or just make it have, like, the most groundbreaking technology to make it stand out. When really, you don't fucking need that at all? Like, sure, it's nice, but that's not a requirement. Because there are games that have decided, you know what? We're going to ignore all of that. We're going to make something simple. And we made something simple. And we were successful. Despite, you know, oh, you're not doing this. You're not making it look like this. Why aren't you? That's not right. That's not modern Western gaming. That's not the modern gaming industry. And they've done fucking well because of, like, their decisions to make things unique or stylized or different from what you would normally expect in the modern gaming climate. And what the games industry needs is more, like, it needs more variety. It needs more unique art styles. It needs more unique mechanics. It needs more unique gameplay systems. It just needs to be unique. And I'm sad that you could try and make something unique, and it does so well. And despite all of that, some big publisher or some big corporation is like, yeah, it's not enough for us. Sorry, go away, fuck you, you're out of a job. And how can you do that? I'm getting angry. I'm getting genuinely angry, but this is just, like, on top of, like, stuff today, which was, like, a long and heavy day. This is just me sort of unbottling, like, my own personal thoughts and stuff on the games industry at large, rather than getting on with work. And yeah, the code compiled. So, with that, I'm going to switch from the engine, the editor, to the code. And I'm going to close the editor because you know what happens. If you've been here before, then you know what happens by now. I'm eventually going to have to recompile stuff by having the editor closed, which is, it's still weird. It's still weird and weird and weird, but oh well. I'm also going to, because, like, some of this, like with the enemy and setting up, like, patrol points, like, why did I do that? Okay, alright, I know what I'm gonna do now. I did it silly. I did it in a silly way. So I'm gonna recompile anyway, right now, because I want this to just be the general base class for enemies. And while I'm going to sort of have, like, an enemy implement, like, whatever we're passing onto the blackboard eventually, what I want to do is, rather than have it in this base class, because, yeah, you may have a patrolling enemy, that's not the whole point. If I had that there, then that expects every enemy to be able to patrol, and maybe I don't want that. Maybe I just want an enemy that just kind of floats around everywhere, or flies around everywhere, or just randomly runs from one end of the map to another, or just runs from, like, one corner to, like, a big open area just briefly. And, you know, that would be pretty cool. So, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make a child class of this enemy class, so I can just, test with this for sake of the prototype. So we're going to be working on that. While it loads up the engine again. But I'm going to quickly, to be fair, there's multiple things I need to set up for this. So, I need to find my notes that I normally use for this stuff. I have lost where it was. As you can tell, with my notes and stuff, I am a little bit haphazard with keeping track of where I put some of my notes, and I really need to get better with it. So, Unreal projects, learning, source. What I need is the notepad and notepad. Notepad. This is the header file, and then I need this. I need to open the. There we go. Right. So I've got my notes and stuff ready for when I actually implement this stuff. So 2 things I need, because I didn't do this first. Where is the AI controller? There it is. So what I need to make is an AI controller, which is responsible for, like, controlling the AI, responsible for passing things or running the behavior tree. So this is a necessary thing for, like, enemy behavior, because without an AI controller, the AI just doesn't function. And the only other controller that currently exists in the project is basically the one that's responsible for controlling the player. And I don't think we want to assign the player controller to that, because otherwise we just have more and more of the player, and they just control everything, and that would just be kind of silly and stupid. So we're going to create the AI controller just so we have that in place. Like, I'm doing it in the editor right now. It'll probably just, like, update stuff in the code solution soon. So, depending on how long it takes, with creating any class, it just does take a while sometimes, which sometimes is a bit perturbing, but you know, just like eventually it gets there eventually. But yeah, no, I had some stuff to say about, you know, what the hell's happening in the games industry even still. And I've ranted about this multiple times. Like, not just in game dev streams, but in playthrough streams as well. And it's upsetting that it's still happening. And it doesn't seem like it's going to stop at any point. And all I can really see is from this more, like, independent studios are going to be formed to kind of break away from, you know, what the hell is happening right now. And, like, to the people who get laid off and are suddenly, like, looking for jobs, and they manage to find a job, like, good on them, because they probably definitely didn't deserve to get laid off. They probably did very well with what they did, and probably felt like, oh, they're just this, like this part of something that's big, and then just, oh, Hita, you're back! Hello, friend. And thanks for the 2 bits. Apparently that's working now. I don't know what it was, if it was a case of I had to update the fucking browser link, or the browser source link, or if I had to sort of reconfigure things, but that actually came through. It did come through twice for some reason. That's weird. I feel like that shouldn't be doing that. So this code is still taking its time to compile, goddamn. It's currently compiling modules, but that isn't helping me, Unreal. No! You still have that! What did I do? Speaking of the... God damn it. That reminds me, I kept saying that I wanted to work on emotes whenever I had, like, previous art streams, and then I never did. I never did work on emotes. And even during that... Like, during the past few days where I've been just trying to do art stuff on the side, I haven't had the thought of, hey, I'm gonna work on my emotes. I mean, but then again, I'm just doing it at my own pace as well. I'm just kind of... Maybe it's definitely just me just complaining quite a bit. It's taking so long. You're just the AI controller. Why are you taking so long? And I've compiled the code while having the engine run like this before, and it hasn't had any problems. And I feel like now that I started like with this, I can't have it stop. So, right. I think for a little bit of like relief while waiting for this all to finish code, like, I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna start doing like this little bit, and then it's gonna finish compiling the code, and I'm gonna be annoyed because, like, why couldn't you have finished this sooner? But I don't know. I'm going to do little funny doodles while we wait because reasons. I'm going to first do a doodle of my little talky person. And who knows, maybe I turn these into emotes. I'm not too sure. And I'm just gonna do this until it actually decides it wants to be done. It's still not done! When was this? This doesn't say anything. I realize this has basically just become part game dev stream, part art stream now. And I also realize that I made this a little bit too long. Or I made it too angular. Part-time? As in... I am... As in Fortnite? Or... I'm scared. You are far... I am far... I am not. How dare you? I sorely need to remember. Right. Oh yeah, Artifart. Sorry. Today's been a long day. I am arty-fartying at the moment while I wait for code to compile. I can tell that I haven't tried drawing like anything resembling my little talky person since January. God, fuck it. I hate that. Imagine I was just calling you out for dropping. First off, rude. You could smell it through the screen. That's just not very nice. Unreal Link, Unreal. I'm just gonna stop the compile, and I'm gonna open the engine normally. And I feel like it's just gonna be having a fit now when I try to open the engine again. Bear one moment. I just wanted to, like, create one or two things that I needed to, like, code and then have done with it. But then I just kind of did it wrong. I went about it in the wrong way. Rar, honey. Bearing more like thing. But like, I don't know, like, in terms of like my low poly stuff, like at the moment I have rat that just kind of looks like this and has the ears kind of looking like that. To be fair, no, actually, to be fair, this is, like, I'm just drawing this from memory. This was me drawing my Ratman from memory. This is spot on. Like, even if it's like a small doodle. Like, it reminds me of the Jinjos from Banjo-Kazooie for some reason. I can't believe I'm actually playing Breath of the Wild. It's been 4 years. Tears of the Kingdom has been out for almost a year and you still haven't beaten Breath. Jinjo! But yeah, but I'm gonna get low poly neck and all. Like, can you believe that I'm currently drawing my little low poly guy from memory? Like, I'm not looking at, like, a screenshot of him or anything. At the moment, I'm just doing things purely on memory. Yeah, you... I was going to say, you got that shit for you... And you haven't... You haven't beaten... Like, hell, I could even do, like, where the bloody... Like, if I was to draw, like, where, like, the knee joint seams are, and do it that way... Oh, wait, no, that's the other way. It's supposed to be there, because it bends like that and deforms along there. But I digress. I should sort this out. I can't even draw a stick figure from memory without screwing it up. Also, hi. Hi, Isaac. How did the Master Dungeons go? Because, of course I couldn't join because of stuff today. Today's been long, and this is, like waiting for the code to compile and trying to develop stuff has been, like, a calming thing for me today. It was something. To be fair, that's what I expect when you've got Chris running in the... I can shorten the foot, but... And that's my Ratman being all sketched out, all sort of, like... And then for the hand, I just kind of did, like, this kind of thing. If I look... Yeah. It will just kind of stretch out like that. Yeah, that's base. Gotta give it to Chris. He moved from Titan to Warlock, now to Hunter. Bog is helping. That's, you know what? Like, commendations to Chris. He adapts and does that well. Also, of course, it threw a fit and, like, stopped working on, like, properly compiling, like, the thing for the enemy controller. So I gotta start, AI controller, I'm just doing this in the background, because me doing the whole sketching stuff, I was waiting for stuff to compile. TP underscore enemy controller. Oh! And hopefully this doesn't take so long. Launching Unreal Build Tool. It's not saying it's a conflicting... So hopefully this doesn't take too long and I can get back... When is the tablet coming back for raids? You know what? Probably soon. Like, no guarantee, but probably soon. It will be a thing that I just decide to just bust out for drawing encounter like my haphazard encounter diagrams again. But no guarantees on when, but it will happen soon. I do like doing it as a bit though, because, you know, no one expects it. Yeah, possibly day one. It will probably be during day one. Which is going to be an experience in itself. Oh boy. But, you know, it will just be... Yeah, I have faith. I have faith in this one this time. Because this is probably the most prepared we've ever been for a day one raid. In terms of, like, what we've been doing and how we've been going, especially with, like, Pantheon and stuff like that being a factor. So, oh yeah, you did get the DLC for Breath of the Wild. like the mass, like the. Oh yeah, Trial of the Sword. Yeah. And probably the Master Cycle as well. I think that's part, or that's the Ballad of the Champions. I think I can't remember. I don't remember. I need to actually revisit that stuff again because it's been so long. But yeah, no. But in terms of like having Pantheon's been helpful because it's like been really sort of. It's been more of a tool to see like, yeah, this is working, but this works better. Rather than be like, oh, we're just gonna go in like we normally would and do whatever. We are actually trying to find the better solutions for things. It's still taking its sweet-ass time to compile the modules for the code. Why? I want to get back to working on it! Maybe if I close, like, the thing and then just do it that way, maybe it will actually start agreeing with me. You know, like that thing you eat, and then it starts disagreeing with your stomach, and you're hoping, oh wait, maybe it'll actually agree with me if I just give it its time. I'm slowly losing my mind. Either that or it's been lost. Yep. You could definitely say that again. And I can't access the output log for the code, like... Frustrating, but... I think while I have, like, the Clip Studio open, like, having managed to draw out my little Ratman is fun. Let me think. Like, in terms of, like, the standard, like, or the test, or the AI that I'm using for the test, like, normally I would simply go for, like, an enemy that just kind of, like, goes from, like, point A, so say this is point A to point B, and then when they're chasing the player, they're like a melee. They go in for... They go in for a big punch. That's normally what I would do. I'd just have it be like a close range melee character for like a test or like an AI. But on this occasion, I want to do something different. I want to actually have it be like a ranged enemy. So it's like when it's chasing the player, it'll also just see, oh, has this like fire rate cooled off yet? If it has, then while it's like running, and I need to rub out that third little leg. You didn't see anything. You didn't see anything. But while it's like moving, it will just fire if it's ready, like... This is not really a good, like, little doodle of a fireball. I'll just move it a bit further out, and then I have more room to work with. I don't know why I'm putting so much effort into, like, a little diagram of what I'm wanting to do with the temp AI, but... You know what? It's something. Oh, it's finally bloody compiled. Hell yeah. Oh. Well, whoops. It compiled both the AI controller, which I named the AI controller, and the original one, which I thought was gone, which I called the enemy controller. So that's there now. Now that I am going to make a child class of the enemy class, because I already kind of said that I don't want this thing to have, like, oh, patrols are, like, patrol points defined, and then, like, have that forced onto every single instance. I'm just gonna do AP underscore temp enemy patroller. And then I'm going to add more code to the project, and this will probably take a little bit of time as well, unless it doesn't take so long, because I'm not doing it in a haphazard way this time. But yeah, I want to test it with, like, a ranged attacker, rather than just, like, man who punches with big fist. Like a Titan. Which, you know, maybe the player is running away with the Titan's box of crayons. Like, just imagine this is, like, branded like Crayola. You know what, this would be a funny idea to actually sketch out as... Yeah, I would run away as well. I mean, I'd do enough of that in Crucible. Like, they're trying to get that purple crayon back. But, like, as a, like, a little sketch concept, I actually want to kind of sketch it out, because it would be funny. But another time, not when I'm streaming, because, you know, I've got other stuff to focus on, too. Temp enemy patroller, that is there. Which is pretty neat. So now I can actually focus back on writing the code, because that was absent for a while. And now I can actually, right, look at things. My normal response is if I see one person, then I'm fine. If I see two, then I just run. I will run and find someone else. That is my one response. Right, so that's enemy controller dot. That's the header file, and that's the, yep, that's the notes for that. So I got my notes for both the things that I need, because leveling with you, I have not actually properly, did I close it? I did, like, I don't need spline moving platform stuff open at the moment, so I can do that. And I'm not working directly on the main enemy class, so I'm just going to have that there. Or I'm just going to close that there, and also, where is the... TP enemy controller, just so I can get that. Yeah. But then let's move that there. Why? It's so frustrating. Well, not so frustrating, but it's a little bit annoying. So... Right, so H... A... So the constructor, which is important, which is vitally important. This needs to be in a, like, in a public field, and then void on on possess, and that's overridden from the base because that overrides a thing. Then where is the notes for what else I need? So this is, can I see the aurora at my house? I don't think I can. I cannot, unfortunately, which is sad. But I know that it's happening. On possess. So next, I think it's privates? Like private variables, private properties, and where is the notes? Yeah, it's privates. And then public again. I'd love to at least see something like it once in the future, because that would be pretty cool stuff. So it's new property. Yep. Category AI B AI properties. Plan me up in Norway just so we could see it all together. Like, imagine that. It's not what I want. What the hell? So class U, blackboard component, pointer, and then this is called, I think I'll just call it blackboard component, because that's just with a lowercase b, because hello, my name is, you may know me as on Discord. And then that is a, yeah, U behavior tree component. Woo! God. Oh, dreadful. And then I have getter things, so U function. Add. Wait. Oh wait, no, it's not U function. It's just force inlines. So force inline U blackboard component get blackboard comp const return returns that, and then the other one is just get the behavior tree. Behavior tree comp. Oh wait, I need to put pointer. Oops. Right, that's the header file done. And then for the CPP, I mean, I need the on possess, generate definition, and then I also need this as well. I need the constructor because that's required. So, whoops, blackboard component equals create default subobject, view blackboard component, and that will just include it automatically. Thank God, because I love Rider, it does so well. Blackboard component, just define its name in the editor. Oh, that's... Oh yeah, check. I think check... Yeah, check makes sure that it was successfully created. And then behavior tree comp, create default subobject, view behavior tree component. And then also check to make sure that this was... Oh, whoops. Check just to make sure that this is... that this exists and it has been made successfully, because this is just making sure that everything's working, otherwise it will just break. And then on possess, like when this possesses like an enemy object, like an enemy character, like the one we're eventually going to write the code for, this is executed. And if like the pawn, which, like, just to refresh memory for people who don't know or don't remember, you have objects. Objects is like the base class for like all actors and stuff. An actor is like an object that can be placed in the world. A pawn is an actor that can receive input from like a player controller or an AI controller, like this one. And then like a character is a pawn that has like character movement and specific components for like moving a character and stuff. And regardless of like that, even if it's like a character or based on the character script, it's still just a pawn. So by default, it will be checked as like the in pawn. If the in pawn is like it doesn't exist, if it's null pointer, which means it doesn't exist, then we won't run this. Because if we did run it and it was like null, then the game would crash. We do not want that. So next we're gonna cast it as an enemy or ATP enemy, because pointer enemy equals cast ATP enemy, and then pass in the in pawn. And then this requires things on the enemy side. So to do check if enemy has behavior tree. So this is something we come back to, because I need to actually define that within... You know what? I shouldn't have closed like the base class, because I do need to actually define some things within that base class. So where is the do hickamajiggy? So that's... U-Punk system, health bar, header. How you know all that stuff is nothing. It takes time. Like, I've been trying to learn Unreal and the stuff like here for like the past almost a year now. And I haven't made too much with it, because a lot of it's just still been learning everything. So there's still like a bit that I need to get into and learn and all that jazz. Alright, so that's protected. Private. But I am pretty happy with like how much I've learned by this point. Like not to knock myself, but you know, still pretty pleased with like how I've been doing with learning this. So I need a class U behavior tree, just a behavior tree. And that needs edit anywhere. Yeah, right, so U property. So edit anywhere. Category behavior tree. You learnt memes in a year. Yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Like, it means a lot. See you then. Wait. Behavior tree. And then meta equals allow private access. It's true. Class U behavior tree. And then we call this just the behavior tree. And then I need the getter method down here. So force inline, and we're just going to return a behavior tree pointer, because, you know, this is like the main thing that we need here. Like, the ability to actually properly return this. So force inline, behavior tree pointer, and we're going to call this get behavior tree const, and then return right, and then that returns the behavior tree. I think there's other stuff that I need to define as well. Like the enemy controller, or like having the enemy controller actually defined as a property here, that it will check, like, oh, if this is here, then we will run this. So the ATP enemy controller, and then just to double check, everything again, because of course. Right, so not there. Definitely. Okay, right. So instead of a private, oh, this has to be a, this has to be a pointer. Whoops. And also I need to make it a U property. U property. Edit. No, wait, no. I don't think it actually, from memory, I don't think it actually needs to be a U property. It just needs to be a thing that exists. Yeah, no, it just has to be a thing that exists. And I could just have this. I mean, I could have it be a protected variable, or I could. Oh, wait! I have an idea. And I could have this be a. I could have it be a protected method, and have it be force inline. So force inline, and at the very least, I could have this just be like, so get enemy controller. Oh wait, whoops. Where is? I swear I had a thing for the Okay, I did it wrong. Whoops. Do I have to define it outside of the U class? I think I do. Okay, I was right. Right, and instead of having to do like that there, then I could just have like things trickle down like this. So ATP underscore enemy controller pointer get enemy controller const and then return enemy controller. And then the force inline void set enemy controller a add a forward declaration for it. AI controller pointer controller, and then say enemy controller equals controller. Right. So basically, I'm making these protected. So like, rather than make it public so that it could be accessed by literally everything that may try. Oh yeah, I forget. Right, I need to oh wait, I need to cast it. Cast as a ATP enemy controller. Okay, there we go. So rather than being like literally accessed by anything that could refer to the enemy class, I'm having it be protected so that it could only be called within itself. So within this own class. And any sort of like instances like child classes or whatever. This just gets like the enemy controller, like this value that's set. And whenever like we have the begin play running, I'm going to get whatever is like set as like the actual controller for the enemy, and I'm going to pass it through here into this method called set enemy controller in the base class. And that, like, although like this is still present within like the child classes, even though like it's private, because it will just still kind of exist. By having this, but it won't be able to actually directly access, like, it. So, what this basically does is, like, it will pass it back up to the base class and say, oh, hey, this controller that we've gotten from the enemy, could you check to see if, like, this actually results in this being assigned to it? And if it does, then, you know, we can still use it for whatever we need to use it for. So that's how that's going to work. Now that we're going to go into the temp enemy controller, I need to get, so public, protected, private, public. And it's I know it would be kind of odd to people that I have like two public sections for properties, but that's just kind of because, well, I'm very particular about separating like my public public methods and functions from my protected ones, and also the other like the constructor and whatnot. So I do that just because like it's a matter of preference. So that's what I do. So I need a tick function because that's, I mean, we need it. We need the constructor as well. So a pp underscore enemy. Whoops. Constructor there, and then also where is protected? Yep, begin play. So I need to grab the begin play and throw it in the protected section because we need the begin play. Enemy patroller doesn't have these defined at the moment. Generate definition. And then, yep, now it's prompting us to generate the definitions for these other two things as well. Gosh. Right. I don't think there's anything specific I would need to do here. Unless I'm completely wrong, which is always possible. Though I'd probably, for the sake of it, primary actor_tick.bcan_ever_tick equals true, just so I can still, like, just to make sure that it will still tick. In the begin play, that will just call its base anyway. And then, according to my notes, so set enemy controller, and then say get controller. Wait. Okay, right, I'm realizing that this doesn't actually need to be a AI controller, it could just be a controller. And then the result would just be the same, except this requires me not having to include, like, an include file. So this works a bit better. So set enemy controller, then say if get enemy controller. So if this thing is, like, valid, if this thing has actually been set, then this will actually start running things, so get enemy controller, get blackboard comp, set value as vector, and of course it needs the behavior tree blackboard component because otherwise I won't be able to actually reference this. So text control point 1. And then, for now, I'll just write an f vector initialized as just a 0. Just so it doesn't throw a fit. Then get enemy controller, get blackboard comp, set value as vector, text, wait, 2. And then, again, I'm going to do the same here, just temporarily. So, that will just be initialized to 0, then get enemy controller, run behavior tree, and I need to check, did I... Hello, Hitor. It's gonna say that I can't access this, isn't it? Whoops! Not actually, that's weird. Behavior tree, get behavior tree. Or it actually requires a U, but that's BT asset, not... Okay, no, that's actually correct. That's actually correct. So now in this begin play, it will set the enemy controller to whatever controller is possessing this, like, character. If this is, like, I did not spend very long playing Zelda. Ah, oh well. I mean, at the very, you gave it a go. And who knows, maybe you'll get into more of a kick with it, like, in the future. But for now, it's just kind of... But, yeah, so if this is, like, valid, if this is not null, then we'll just say, yeah, we'll get, like, the blackboard component from this thing, set the value of, like, patrol point 1 and patrol point 2 to, like, vectors. I think I'll place... Yeah, that's good, that's good. Just like I'll try and do some more RE bits tomorrow, like when I get back from work and when I get back from seeing people, because that's what I'm planning on doing tomorrow. Yeah, it's just hard to play laying down. I wouldn't recommend trying to play laying down. But yeah, once, like, that's all been done, like, these values are set, then we're just going to run the behavior tree, and then it just starts, you know, working. The things that I need are, but alas, no TV near bed. Yep, there we go. Right, so U property. So yeah, edit anywhere. Category equals behavior tree meta equals allow private access equals true, and also make edit widget equals true. And if you remember from earlier, this is what I was explaining what I did for that one moving platform. I'm going to make this F vector, like, make it possible to edit, like, where the F vector is in relation to the character in the editor. So F vector, patrol point 1, and then basically do the same for the second patrol point. So we have 2 points defined where the player can, like... Yeah, so patrol point 1, patrol point 2. And then instead of just feeding these directly in, we don't want to do that yet. What we do... I'm going to do this before everything else. I'm going to say const F vector world patrol point 1. It's going to be, I think, ukismet math library make world. No, it's not. It's ukis. It's something. It is. Transform location. I'm getting there with memorizing some of the stuff that I can do here, but at the same time, there's still, like, quite a bit that I'm trying to sort of memorize. Const F transform T. So get the actor transform. And then patrol point 1. And then basically we do the same for the other one. So I may as well duplicate the line and make the small changes there. And then here we just feed in the world patrol points. So we go world patrol point 1 and then world patrol point 2. And that's basically setting the blackboard, like, patrol point values to just like, oh, this is where it is in the world in relation to where the enemy character is. So if I remember, there was a bit here, like, in the enemy controller where it's like, oh, check if the enemy has a behavior tree. So we're going to do that now, because... if enemy, and then check if enemy gets behavior tree. Blackboard component, initialize blackboard, and this is an important step of it as well. And then we dereference whatever we get from enemy get behavior tree, get blackboard asset. There we go. And I think for the the enemy character and the enemy controller, as far as like the basics go, this is what's necessary. So, like, having the enemy controller check for like if the pawn it possesses is of like a certain class of enemy, then checking if they have a behavior tree assigned to them, and then if it does, then get that behavior tree, get the blackboard asset attached to it, and initializing that blackboard so it can be updated and stuff. And then in the enemy patroller, for example, in the begin play, like for these patrol points, we're just converting whatever we set the widgets to like the actual like world position. So it doesn't like, oh, continuously move towards a patrol point that's continuously moving along with them, because that would be bad. We're setting the variable enemy controller, which is in the base enemy class right here. This is like not something we set in the editor, we're just setting it in code. So we set this via here by getting the controller, and then if this is like valid, if it was properly sort of like set, then we will set the patrol points to the things that we got from here, and then we'll run the behavior tree. We'll have the AI actually start doing its stuff. So that probably sounded like a lot, or quite a bit to go through, and it was, but I'll try and break it down a little bit, like more short form if I can, like in a bit. But for now, that should be it for like enemy stuff, or at least the standard enemy, until we actually try and do anything specific like attacks and whatnot. So I'm going to do more. So now we're just going to wait for the code to compile again. And while we wait for that, we may as well go back to the art thing. I like the little stickman stuff that I do sometimes. Except for this one. This one isn't dynamic enough. I feel like I could have made it a little bit more dynamic, but oh well, I was kind of rushing to make it. Then we have Ratman, who I managed to draw from memory. I don't know how I did that, but I'm not knocking it. I'm going to save this file because I may as well. Random sketch stuff. Oh, apparently the build failed. What was wrong? It doesn't tell me. Is it because where is the build file? Yeah, I have the AI module. It doesn't tell me what's wrong. We're gonna see what the hell is going on with this, because it should be working. And I couldn't exactly see what the hell happened with it, so we're gonna have it try and compile again. And we're gonna see what exactly is causing this problem, because I would like to find out. It's gonna take a while again. You know, like, I find it funny. As soon as I switched over to, like, Clip Studio to do, like, random sketch stuff again while we wait for the code to compile, it just did it! Like... Oh, whoops, I messed that up royally. Woo! I'll do this while we wait for it to compile again. Mm-hmm. Do. Oh, it's sure taking its time this time around. Then again, it might have been because I had only, like closed the editor not too long beforehand, and Unreal is kind of a bit finicky with, like, oh, if you're trying to compile this while this project is still open, or, you know, like, not too long after it's been, closed, then it's just gonna say, oh, you cannot compile while, live coding is, like, active. So, I think that might have been the problem. Fine. Alright, so now I know that the last time I tried compiling it was because I did it too soon. I'm gonna keep doing my little sketchy version of me, because... It does give me the chance to workshop some things too. Because I still don't have, like, a sort of hype emote, really. I don't think I do, unless I'm wrong and Dragon did make me one. I've got happy, I've got sad. I've got calculated, which, you know, one of my favorites that she made. But I don't have an actual hype emote. So, something for me to think about moving forward. As I want to add more emotes, and that way give people more of a reason for, like, if they ever come here and, you know, they see something they like in, like, the emotes and stuff, then, yeah, they can have that for, like, either a follower or a tier 1. Because I'm probably not gonna do too much for, like, other tiers unless I feel like, you know what, this is necessary. But in order to be able to sort of talk about that kind of stuff, growth needs to happen. And in order for growth to happen, I want to be able to try and get on with, like, editing down a stream into a video. And I had talked about this, like, the other day, but then I just had no idea what to do with stuff because I had so much on my mind at the time and I couldn't think properly. So I just didn't actually do anything editing-wise. So yeah, that happened. But yeah, definitely soon I want to begin doing that a whole lot more because, I mean, it'll give me something to do outside of streams, but at the same time, it would be a good way to sort of, like, have things happen on both sides. You know, not just here on Twitch, where I actually have people discover the channel, like, from outside and see what happens here. Because at the moment, like, every so often... Good. Oh, good God, tired. Ugh. But things do happen, but things happen slowly. And discoverability at this stage sucks. So I want to be able to try and, like, do the whole discoverability angle in a different way. Still taking it. It's... I mean, to be fair, in terms of, like, what I changed code-wise, how much I added, it's understandable that, like, if I go back onto the thing, like, here, like, it wasn't just, like, whatever I added in the methods, it was also, like, the properties and stuff. I added it in the header files, here, and here, and whatever I'm having happen here, whatever I'm having happen here, and here, which is literally not anything here, aside from the bare bones. But there is quite a bit that I added, So no wonder it's taking its time. I just wish it didn't. This is me getting impatient. This is me being woefully impatient. But there is much. There's much that needs to be done. I'm just trying to think, because, like, I have Ratman in terms of characters, but I don't know what I would like to do for, like a single standard enemy. I would think, like, maybe, but then people wouldn't really want to fight cats often, but, I mean, you had the cat wizards and stuff in Spyro, and they were pretty funny. Because I was thinking, like, in terms of an enemy, it would be a cat that throws something at the rat, but maybe not. Though, I can workshop the idea for an enemy, but like maybe it's an evil cat. This is me just rounding it out, so it's not like I'm awkwardly just, like, trying to figure out where the hell stuff goes. I'm trying to make it fluffy, but I'm making it spiky instead. What the heck? I'll just draw the basic shape of the ears, and then I'll do whatever changes I want. And this other one could be an eye patch. You know what? I actually, I did this on a whim because I thought, you know what? Let's try and sketch a random cat enemy that could be in the game. Because, you know, rats and cats and all that, so I was thinking, let's just do this on a whim, but this actually looks pretty good. Or this could be, like, the antagonist, I'm not too sure. Like, I don't think it would just work as just, like a random enemy. Like, because he looks like he has too much, like, charisma as an evil villain for just being a regular, like, enemy. I feel like if anything, this would have to be like an antagonist. And of course I'm gonna have like a sort of like notch taken out of the ear for like, yeah, you could tell he's evil because like he's got stuff taken out of the ear kind of shtick. And like not just in one place, but in like a second place too. This guy makes me think he's more of a pirate, and I feel like a pirate cat would be pretty funny, but would also be pretty cool. And then he just has a ring at the top of his ear. That's not really noticeable. It looks more like a little weird, like, circle thing that's just kind of... Okay, Tom, I feel like garbage. I'm gonna go try and sleep. Yeah, that's fine, Heater. I hope you're feeling better soon, and I hope you have a good sleep. You better have a good sleep. Be... Good night, and good luck with video games and art. I will do my best. Right, so in terms of compiling, that hasn't finished. This is taking forever. But I feel like in terms of like a villain, like yeah, sure, this isn't low poly at the moment. I would definitely have to like low polyify it, but this could work as like an antag. This would be a pretty cool antagonist. And then, of course, like, for a body, you'd have, like, this looks like a rotund, sort of roundish cat. So, like, of course, their body would have to be as such too... You know? And leaning in with, like, the whole sort of pirate kind of aesthetic, we're gonna give him, like, a little sort of, like, sword, cutlass kind of thing. And then when it comes to, like, drawing the arms and stuff, it just kind of falls a little flat. That would be, like, a long coat. And underneath would have a shirt. And then that's missing like a button or two, and it just kind of terribly opens up at the bottom. You'd have a peg leg too. And I know it's cliche. But then that makes me... Oh, finally! The build succeeded! Lord. Make the pores bigger. Or that pore in particular, and I'll give him a proper sort of long coat sleeve. I am enjoying doing this little tidbit though. Right, and now the project's back open again. Right. Oh, it took long enough, but it's finally open again. Whew! Okay, so... Blueprints... Enemy... Right. AI... Enemy... And we're gonna make a... Controllers... Because... Who knows, we may have more than one AI controller that does specific things. So, I'm going to go for all classes. TP enemy controller. BP underscore enemy controller. That's the controller setup. Oh wait, though, I need to go in here because there's stuff I need to edit in the defaults, so that this can work properly. So... Actions component... I can't remember. I don't think there is. TP enemy controller... Blueprint... No, wait, no, I don't need to edit anything here. It's just whenever I get to making the actual enemy. So, enemies, create blueprint class. Gonna call the TP underscore enemy patroller, or the temp enemy patroller. BP underscore temp enemy patroller. So at the moment, of course, there's no mesh or anything here. So we're going to reuse the same one. So skeletal mesh Quinn. And of course we need to move them down. And then rotate them 90 degrees, otherwise they're... or minus 90 degrees, otherwise they're facing the wrong way. That's sorted. I don't know if I won't have an animation blueprint play at the moment, because just for the sake of distinguishing at the moment, so you can tell that, oh, this is the where is the... Oh, that's the mesh, right. And that won't show up because it's the mesh. Right. So, behavior tree, BT, temp AI, controller, I think, where is... AI controller class... BP underscore enemy controller, that's the one. And then that should be sorted for the time being. So, gonna drag this guy here. And of course... Oh, I deleted them by accident. Whoops! I was trying to press the end key because that sort of fastens them down to the ground. Yep, there we go. And now you can see, much like the moving platform, we've got like the widgets for the patrol point vectors. So we'll put patrol point 2 all the way over here. And then that should be sorted. The last thing that we need is volumes, a nav mesh bounds volume, which is basically responsible for, like, if you have an AI, enemy AI, it's responsible for, you know, basically allowing it to find where it needs to go and move. Without it, it just doesn't work. So you need this. So, with luck, this works, and if not, the game crashes. Depending on how long it takes for the fucking, Oh, yep, there it goes, it's moving. So, as you can see, I mean, that's not, like, the character's not perfectly on the ground because I probably didn't set them low enough. But as you can see, like, the AI is moving back and forth between, like, point A and point B. You know, just like how the patrol logic dictates. So, that's good. And if I was to... And this is entirely based on what's recorded, like, at the begin play, where this, like, patrol point widgets are. Not like, oh, this is where, like, it's continuously moving towards this one point that keeps moving and moving and moving. It's just taking where these are at the start, getting their actual world location, and then just saying, yeah, we're just moving between these 2 points in the world. So I'm going to move this slightly, because that kind of caused a little bit of confusion at first. But we're just going to have that be there. And then we put the other one over there. The AI will try and find, like, the quickest route, which, to be fair, is not, like, that difficult. It's just kind of going round and down there. But at the moment, as you can tell, the enemy doesn't react to the player. It doesn't, like, there's no way for it to check, oh, the player is, like, here. So, I'm going to try and get this done, like, just before stream ends, because this shouldn't take too long. But what we're going to do, and I need to swap back to Ryder for this, we are basically going to have, like, normally how you would do it, like, with Unreal's, like, because Unreal, in particular, has a thing for pawn sensing, where it can sense, like pawns, like, with line of sight, and hearing, and all that jazz, but that would take a while to set up, and we do not have enough time left in the stream to be able to do this, so we're going to have, basically, we're going to have a sphere component, so like a collision sphere, but it's going to be an overlap. And I'm going to define it in the temp enemy patroller at the moment, because maybe I don't want this as a baseline. Maybe I want, of course, for the enemies to behave differently. But, I'm going to say, class use. Oh, damn it, it was sphere component, pointer, aggro sphere, we're going to call it aggro sphere. And then in the protected methods, we need 2 methods. We need I mean, they both need to be U functions. So we need two functions. And what we need is one overlap and one end overlap function. So void, aggro, sphere, begin, overlap. And then we need these properties. We need the overlapped component, we need the other actor, we need the other component. So the overlapped component is the component on like the owning object that's overlapped, and the other component is the other component that's overlapped on like the other actor and whatnot. Other body index, I'm not too sure on that. B ball, B from sweep. I'm still a bit unsure on that. And then sweep result, I guess, is from like the hit that it gets from like a sweep. And then the other one we need is void, aggro, sphere, end overlap. And then we also need basically almost all of the same parameters except for like the boolean and the hit result. We just need the first four. So I'm gonna grab that from my notes and I'm gonna paste it here. And then I'm gonna get the definitions all arranged. You know, generate definition, get these all here. And in the begin play, like, of course we need to do the whole, like, aggro sphere equals create default subobject, use sphere component, and then we'll of course get the thing, or the include, text, aggro sphere, and then in begin play, aggro sphere on component begin overlap dot add dynamic. So this I might be wrong. Oh yeah, no, I'm not wrong. Right. So and ATP underscore enemy temp enemy patroller aggro sphere begin overlap, and then aggro sphere on component end overlap dot add dynamic. This at EP temp enemy patroller aggro sphere end overlap. And now what are we doing here? So when we overlap with the sphere, because it will be set to being like oh yeah, I need to set up the attachment as well. So aggro sphere, set up attachment, root component. So when we overlap with the sphere, we want it will execute this, and when we stop overlapping, when it leaves the radius, it would just say, yeah, we're leaving this now. So we say a TP underscore player character pointer player equals cast ATP underscore player character other actor. So we're basically checking if the actor that left this is the player. If player is equal to null pointer, then we don't want this executing. So we just return if it's not the player. If it's not a player character, then we just want to stop executing this right now. So I will copy this down here, just for the sake of like. Oh, I forgot the A. I didn't highlight the A. Whoops. So what we do now that we're sort of moving forward from that, is I know I could have used auto. If get enemy controller. If get enemy controller, get blackboard comp. So get enemy controller, get blackboard comp, set value as bool. So I believe it was, it's a text, B and C player, and we want to set this to true, and then if other actor no pointer return. I want to make sure that this is also covered, because if it tries to cast other actor to a player and other actor is null, then it will crash. So we need to make sure this is covered. So we basically take this and then instead of saying it to true, we say it to false. And now we're going to compile again, and this is going to take some time. This will take probably, I hope, 10 minutes. If longer, then I will be making a complaint. This shouldn't be taking so long. Oh, right, this is going to take a bit. Tell you what, I think I'll end stream here for today, because this is going to take forever, like it has been doing for quite some time, and I don't want to keep people sat here waiting for me to just show off one thing and then say, yeah, this is the end of stream. But, to everyone who showed up, to everyone who is watching things back on the VOD, whether you're watching it here on Twitch or on YouTube, depending on when you watch it, thank you ever so much for showing up to stream. I really appreciate it. In terms of the next stream now, of course, be on Monday, and as for what I do, I may do this again, or I may do art, or I may do something different entirely. But know that there is a definite stream on Monday, and not like me throwing things up in the air like I did with today, but there were reasons for that. There were legitimate reasons for that. But yeah, thank you ever so much for showing up. I really appreciate you being here. It means a lot to me. And I will see you all again in the very next stream. Bye-bye!